Before we get into this episode, there's something that might be of interest that I wanted to tell you about. Scene and Heard, who run this podcast, have been asked by Scotland Food and Drink to undertake a strategic review of the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards. Now, these Excellence Awards have been going for almost 20 years and are a huge mainstay of the food and drink sector. But it's time to ensure that they're still relevant. So if you have ever been involved in the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards, or even if you've ever had an opinion about them, we would love for you, please, to complete our survey. So if you go to the On Farm Twitter, which is at @on_farm UK, and click the link in the bio, there will be a tab in there that will take you to the survey, and it should only take you a very short while to complete, but we would be enormously grateful. Just before we get into the main episode, a quick message from a friend of On Farm recorded in her tractor cab.
Hello, my name is Katie Brisbane and I am a project coordinator for RET, the Royal Highland Education Trust. We work to give children a greater understanding of food, farming and the countryside. This year we have a focus on the journey of food, seeds and grains, highlighting all the great things produced by Scotland's soils. If you're a farmer or work in a rural business and you'd like to get involved, to volunteer or sponsor our work, we'd love to hear from you. We also have a huge range of educational resources on the website. If you know any teachers or educators who might appreciate them, you can find out more at www.red.org.uk.
Yeah, so I'm Monty, part of the On Farm podcast team. Today we're going to be visiting a farming neighbour of mine who's also pretty much a rugby legend, Doddie Weir. It feels strange because Doddie, he's a neighbour, he's a mate, and I want to get this right from his point of view and from the podcast point of view, but B, it does feel awkward. So, this is a chat with him, hopefully, but it could be different from just sitting down as we maybe normally would for a coffee. I think actually in some ways that's what's made it a bit more poignant and sad about Doddie's condition, because he would be up where we're going, on the farm. He would be there on a two-wheel motorbike, trials motocross bike, and he'd be zooming around with virtually no regard and going to check his sheep and just, that's how he was. And now it's quite sad because he's not as able at all, and that's quite difficult. We want to talk about farming, we want to talk about the rural borders, and we'll see how we get on with that, because Doddie, he likes to get the bit between his teeth and tell you a story. So, we've just arrived at Doddie's place. We'll give the kitchen window a rattle and see who's around.
Morning.
Dodgy?
What a fine day.
Do you want a coffee, Monty?
Would a cup of tea be on offer, Rosie, please?
Hello.
Hi, Cathy. We're all right, you?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Feeling slightly awkwardly apprehensive about this because your husband's a pro at this and I'm just learning, but we'll get there.
I'm quite sure he'll tell you what you're doing
Yeah.
wrong. You know him, Monty?
Yes,
Don't be afraid.
No.
Be very afraid.
No. So the podcast, it's a series and it's called On Farm. On Farm being on food, agriculture and rural matters. So we're hoping today to chat to you about farming and life in the rural borders. But I can see you're still buzzing from the other night and the BBC Sports Personality of the Year Awards. How are you feeling about that?
That was quite an emotional time, but it's just the journey we're on at the moment, Monty. The friends, family that we've been with made a very special evening. Princess Anne being there was pretty impressive. So, again, I need to dedicate it to people like yourself, because remember, it was 2 years ago maybe when you started your tractor rally, And the awareness and the amount of people came out that day was just outstanding. So with people like yourself and many others, I had to dedicate the award, because it wasn't for like people like you and many others, I certainly wouldn't be standing up on that stage.
Doddie, I don't know what to say. I mean, I really think that I wasn't going to even touch on the tractor rally. I didn't really want to bring myself into that. But the only thing I would say about that is I think we were all shocked, majorly shocked with your diagnosis. And, and I mean all, I think this part of the world, in the rural borders, we were all shocked. And I just had an idea that we could get a few people together. And I think that the depth of the support just blew me away. And that was for you. That's because you have done, we're here to chat about what you've done, about the farming side of things and what have you. But it really is true that long before this M&D unfortunately came along, you did so much for organisations in this part of the world, for charities. You were never shy of giving up your time to help out or to speak or whatever, or switch on Christmas lights and that sort of thing. For example, the tractor run was just one way of paying that back, and hopefully it goes away to do that. But we're all there for you.
No money. Thank you very much for you never mentioning that. But we'll go back to the diagnosis. I was very similar to yourself and a lot of other people who are listening to this podcast. You're looking and saving up for the future, so we come to your retirement, and I was one of them. Got my small holding here at the sewage company as well. Looking forward to the day that it all finishes when you're 60, 65. Then one day you kind of wake up with a bit of muscle loss in your left hand and your skin twitching. And a year down the line, you could say once you get tests, you've got MND. So that wasn't the best of days, but there was no reason why I got it, no reason why I'm here. But what is a solace is as you mentioned, the farming world and the small holding we've got here. It's a good getaway clause. I've enjoyed the country life from day one, lived on a farm from day one. And ironically, all the lovely awards that I'm receiving this year, the one I'm most impressed with is my HND in agriculture. I had to work for 4 years to get that.
That's from SRUC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't called them at the time, but SEC at the time, Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Learning how to cook on your own because you're away from your mummy, and learn how to wash, learn how to drink properly, and learn how to party. That's what we did. And the better you did at that, the better award you got. So I didn't quite get distinction in that, just below.
Do you see yourself as a farm laddie who got lucky at rugby, or are you, a rugby player that happens to be from a farming background?
I'm telling you, when you have a look at life back, even the way I am with MND, I'm very lucky. Everything, even with this MND lack as well. And a lot of the people maybe look back in their lives, and I talk about this quite a bit. You go back, I was lucky the way I grew up. Mum and Dad put a lot into their education, didn't do that well, I'm not that clever. Their farming background as well. They're farmers just up the valley on the East Simon Valley. They've got about 1,000 acres still there. Unfortunately, Mum we lost in June, but Dad's still farming sheep, beef and arable. So it gave me the background to do. And wonderfully enough, it's strange enough, I was involved in the horses. So having a bit of land made the horse world easier. So again, I was very lucky there. Mum did quite a lot for us in the horses. Dad supported us.
You've talked about this before. Your first thing was pony club and show jumping and what have you, much more so than rugby. But I would see it, I'm not much of a sportsman, but I would see it as once you've got the discipline, don't laugh.
You can see that sporting's not a big part of your life, big fella.
But once you've got the kind of discipline, which you did, because you did quite well with the horses, equestrianism, once you've got the discipline, was that easier to transfer that into the rugby world?
I think it was, and you're right, we've talked about it before and do a little bit of team building. I think you're correct with the horses, gave you a core, gave you an inner stability. But then when you're up at heights, going over jumps, you have an idea about timings. When you're in the jump off, you like to try and cheat as much as possible. And that brought through again with your dressage tests. You had to learn that, like line-out code. So it did, and also being competitive. And that's what the world's about, being competitive, but also if you don't win, be very sporting at the same time. And that brought through not just sport, but the world we're in. So we got into that frame, went to 4 years at King's Buildings, came out and played for Melrose Rugby. And again, that was luck. A gentleman called Sandy Fairbairn, who was in the horses, said, come and play for Melrose. So my dad played for Gala, and just by luck, because I couldn't do Gala because the horses was in the same day, I went, going to Melrose Rugby team, by luck. I was looking for a job because the old boy said there's no job at home because he knew that I would probably never be there. So Carl's McTetley Brewing came on board and offered me a job, so I went to sell beer.
How lucky is that? You are talking about luck here, but you're getting to play rugby and then someone offers you a job working for a brewery.
Doesn't get any better than that, no. Because the pubs are really only opening these days from 11 till 3. So every day that's all I had to work and go and speak to a lot of people, play some pool, some darts. And then from there, Rob Andrew came on board to become a professional rugby player. And again, possibly by luck, we were fortunate in the national team at the time. And then we left rugby, the old boy didn't want me back. So the father-in-law got me in the sewage industry, and then bang, this place again was a bit lucky because we had to, I think, borrow maybe 13 times your wages at the time, which today wouldn't be allowed. Yeah. So you look back and then this MND luck that I've got, I'm very lucky in a way because other people who've had MND are dead within 3 months. Yeah. So I'm 3 years still smiling, speaking to you.
I think that's been a major inspiration for anyone with any, it's not just MND, is it? Anyone who's suffering from a kind of condition, illness, terminal or otherwise, to see you still doing the do, still getting on with life and actually taking it on head on is got to be an inspiration.
Oh, it's very kind of you, but I think when you have a look to see what the MND is about, there's no drugs, there's nothing on the table. And I think you go back to sports and maybe the education within the rugby is this positive mind, don't give up.
Yeah.
So an example, just my shoes there, I can't tie my shoelaces at the moment, so I've got rubber laces that I can still get my shoes on and off myself. People don't have to put my shoes. There is a way around it, and you've got to adapt. The same with drinking. Yeah. Can't drink with one hand on a pint glass where I can drink with two hands and a wee handle.
Yeah.
So I always say, if there's a problem, don't give me the problem, give me the solution.
Yeah. I mean, again, just staying serious and probably looking a wee bit about the farming world at the moment, there is an issue at the moment, isn't there? And we hear about it all the time with mental health in farming. If someone listening to this podcast could think, actually, there's a guy dealing with a lot of SH1T, and just listening to that, how positive you are about just, it's mindset.
I definitely think that, but farming is a very tricky industry. With this issue, I've got the most amazing team behind, so I have the most amazing support. Mm-hmm. But you can see Mr. Farmer on his own, trudging away in the farming is such a nightmare. You don't know what you're going to get for your barley. You don't know what you're going to get for your cattle. You've put a lot of hard work in. The commodity, the prices of the cake that you feed them now is quite expensive. And everyone wants to look after their animals as well as you can. And at the farming at the moment, when you get in that deep hole, it's very difficult to get out because you just don't know what you're going to get for your animals. Yeah. You can understand these boys in a bit of trouble, but all that my advice would be say is don't be shy to ring up for help. And that's the best thing I did with MND was to come out and tell friends, look, I've got this terminal issue, I might need your help, and there's nothing to be shy or sorry for asking for help, because it's been us big boys, I've been shed many a tear over this journey, and do it because the way I am and the emotional and the friends. So people who are in trouble that you mentioned, please just pick up the phone and ask for help, and that's what it's there for.
You knew about this and you were diagnosed about this Christmas time, January, 3 years ago, is that roughly? That's
what then, yeah.
A short while later, I can't get the dates right, but oh well, I know. But you stood up at a dinner and you compared, and you were master of ceremonies, whatever you want to call it. You were Doddie anyway, at a dinner for RSABI, the rural charity. In my head, that was about 10 days after your diagnosis. That must have taken a bit of strength.
It did, but there was a harder one just before that. At the same time as I got diagnosed, Mum got diagnosed with cancer and we weren't very sure that she would reach that Christmas.
Yeah.
So that's why we kept it quiet till the January. But just maybe a couple of months before, it was a bit harder, that we spoke at my niece's 21st. She'd lost her dad, Michael Dunn, who's a big farming boy. Mm-hmm. And that was quite a tricky time, because at the time, when you got MND, you just don't know how long I'm going to live for. It could have been 3 months and I could have said goodbye to my niece, nephew, cousins, my own family. But we're still here. But I tell you, the farming has got a lot to do with why I'm still here, because I mentioned before, keeping active is very important, so it doesn't allow your mind to think about your issue. And being on the farm, the fresh air, getting out and about, it's just been amazing for me.
Is it a pain in the posterior, folk like me coming and asking about your issue, though?
Only you. Everyone else is. No, not at all. Because, Monty, this MND has no time spent. There's no new drug for the last 28 years on the table. No, to me, that's ridiculous. So when somebody gets MND, they've got no chance because there's no option. So when you've got the dreaded cancer, which is horrific in itself, there's a very good chance that you're going to survive nowadays. With MND, there's no chance because there is no drug. So we need to change that. So more people kind of like yourself and what you've done with your tractor rally, people still talk about it. Over 200 tractors chugging through the borders. We need to do a lot more of that, and that's why the sports personality, again, at the weekend was great for awareness, and through that programme we had a lot of people very kindly donating, because it does make a difference, because we spent, I think, nearly £5 million in just over 2 years. And that again wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for yourself and lots of other supporting. So thanks to them, it's beginning to make a difference, but we need to keep going till we win the game, boss.
Yeah. How do you feel about the progress? You know, you've raised money, you've taken advice about, you know, how it should be invested and spent into research and what have you.
Progress is going very well because we're challenging the professors, because I've got nothing to lose, and we brought them all together, which is great. So it's about 10 or 12 professors meet every 6 months, and it's lovely to see them talking, because before they didn't communicate with each other. So that's making a big difference, and there's a couple of trials that are going to start into 2020, which is the first sort of major trials in the UK ever. So that's going to make a big difference to a lot of patients as well, because that gives them a bit of hope. But we need to continue until there's a real one that makes a big difference.
The eye-opener for me was when you told me this, that basically it's a commercial industry, isn't it? The drugs and the research industry. You said, you know, because there aren't enough, if I want to use the word sufferers of MND, there aren't enough of them. A lot of the drugs companies are not interested in taking their piece of research work further, because actually the payback is not going to be there in terms of drug sales. There's not enough of you. And what you've done is turn that around, because you want to make the money to make these people sit up and take notice.
Well, we do awareness first of all, and it's such a horrific issue. Your whole body shuts down, the muscles disappear. So eventually all you can communicate with your eyes is the end term. Everything has to be done by someone else. So totally horrific. So with that, we need a bit done. But yeah, again, go back to what I was saying. We've got a problem. What's the solution? Solution is trying to get a drug on the table. And yes, there's only 500 people in Scotland that has this issue, so it's not commercially viable for big drug companies. But what it might, MND, if we get a cure here, might lead into the solutions of other neurological issues. That's a lovely big word for this time of the morning. And that might make it again for a lot of the companies. But no, the fight's there, Monty. And again, I think it comes from the way we've been brought up with the sport and the horses and the rugby, that don't give in. If somebody gets your position in the rugby team, you've got two options. One, giving in, or fight to get it back again. And this is certainly a fight to try and make a difference. And we'll continue till we win the game.
So, yeah, basically, So we're here and we're having a bit of a chat, but in about half an hour's time-ish, you've got the Lauderdale hunt coming, and they're going to be, I don't know, on a day like this, maybe 25 horses and the hounds, obviously.
I think there's quite a lot of footfall in now as well, which is good, and not looking forward to it. I'm here. It happens to be once, twice a year. Open arms, good ladies involved in the horsing and obviously the hunt as well. And delighted to know a lot of friends from the hunt, so I hope they have a very good day.
Do you miss getting on a horse yourself, Doddie?
I do a little bit now. I was in the horse in Lauderdale coming round last year, and again it was another mental thing for myself, just to say I can and I will, but this time where maybe the balance is not quite as good, so it would be a bit silly to do that, because if I happen to fall off it could be quite tender. Even just, I've got to remember I've got an issue, that's the biggest thing nowadays, so when I fall over I can't put my hands out, I've just got, it's like falling over your hands in your pocket, gets quite sore. You'll be okay because you're a bit closer to the ground, so you won't hit it at the speed that I hit.
It's a big thing in this area. We're talking about the hunting, but the common riding is certainly a big thing in this area, and it was great to see Doddie taking part.
But again, the reason behind it was, again, for self-esteem. My auntie, it was her 50th year when she was Connacht's lass, so I was there to support her, and it gave me an excuse to try and get on the horse and go, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But again, it's a country life, going back onto doing something you do, getting away, keeping your mind fresh, and going back to what the interview is about, the farming. Farming's just been amazing, thoroughly enjoyed it. The sheep and beef that we've got here, although unfortunately we've had to get rid of our cows because I can't calve and catch the calves and cows anymore. And my good lady's a bit scared of the cows, and the kids are away doing other things, and you don't want to come reliant on other people. But we've got some store cattle in now, so I do like to have a bit of cattle around the place, so store calves back in to see how they go.
We were talking about that on the way up here, Doddie. We used to see you racing around here on a two-wheel motorbike, and that was you checking your stock and what have you, and it is hard that you're not able to do that now.
Well, you say that though, Monty. You see, this is where I think it's all wrong, because it's adapting to the issue. So maybe don't go on a two-wheel motorbike. We've got a four-wheel motorbike that we have a shot on and don't get it. But again, that was getting a bit hard. I got stuck in the bank another day because my thumb's quite weak to try and power it. So we've got a four-wheel drive machine now just to allow me to go out and go around the stock.
This is an on-farm podcast that you're listening to. We're trying to tell the rural story, and Doddie
must be the best track.
Doddie's very much a rural character. John Deere, was it not the story that you told that your father had, was it Fiats in the old days, and you refused to drive them, and that's how you ended up going into the sewage business?
I was thinking that would be probably right, but Fiats wasn't a bad tractor, the old International 494, I think it was, as well. But I'm a John Deere man. Nothing runs like a deer, and some people say there's nothing as dear as a John Deere.
Yeah, you've got your old Fordson as well, haven't you?
A wee Dexter, yes. And I think the best toy I bought, which is quite strange, I've got about 100 horse tractor. I've got a big JCB foot lift, and now I've only got about 100 odd sheep. Again, how farming's quite exciting. It's always try to move forward, try to stay ahead of the rest. And that's why I quite like about farming, to keep thinking how to do that, whether it's to tidy your farm up, because you know yourself, it's here on the dike thing, if you let a hole in the dike fester, 1 year it'll be 1 yard, the next will be 5 yards, so try to tidy that up, but also with the breeding of your sheep, trying to always improve, to try and see how you can improve, have a look to see what sheep. I enjoy going to the market on the Mondays, just to see the trade and the buyers, to see what lambs are making good money, and then you try and bring that home as well, do a bit of research.
Can we have a wee bit of a quick chat about shows and events and how you see them in terms of, either socially or business improvement? I mean, how do you see the traditional sort of agricultural shows in this area?
Very good question. I think are vital. You've got the Highland Show, which is the pinnacle. But the Border Union Show, I was in the committee, it's an amazing 2-day show. You have a look what the show involves, it's just amazing. There's something for everyone. You've got the showing of the pedigree sheep and cattle, or non-pedigree, but that's very important for people moving forward to get better prices for the cattle, winning that standard of show, which is a very high standard. You've got the horse class, which is many a class. You've got the machinery for people who want to go and see it. You've got the shows and all the hop-ons for the kids. There's the education in the countryside area. You've got the home production, so your sausages, your beer and everything. It's just a wonderful show, and these shows are vital for, I think, the future of farming in a way, to educate and allow people to enjoy what the countryside has got, and long may they continue.
So, Doddie, we were having a chat about, what you've done for long before the MND thing. You've spoken at dinners and you've done a lot for various rural organisations and charities and what have you. What more can we do as the rural borders, as a farming community, as people listening to this? What more can we do to help?
Farming community, Monty, like we mentioned to yourself, been so supportive to date. A lot of people have been donating sheep, taps, or selling off cows, semen even, and it's just been so unbelievable. If anyone has listened to the lovely podcast here, if they feel they would like to follow us in some way or shape of support, we've got a website, myname5doddie.co.uk. Go on the website, there's lots of different functions that are available, dinners, dances, auctions, and even donations as we'd like to do it, because as I mentioned before, it is making a difference. We have to keep continuing the approach and challenging these professors.
I'm just thinking of some of the things that you mentioned there about how the rural community, if you like, have supported. I mean, one of the ones that got me was two young boys from the Isle of Iona who had raised their pet lambs. A pet lamb, just for the listener who won't know, would be an orphan lamb that was, hadn't a mother, was raised on a bottle of milk, as it were. And lo and behold, these two boys had these lovely prime lambs ready for the butchers, and they sold them, and rather than it being their pocket money, the money went towards, went to the My Name's Doddie Foundation. And I just think, little stories like that was really a sort of illustration of how everyone's trying their best, and you've been an inspiration and got people to do that for the MND cause.
That's very kind of these boys, yeah, was one of many, and it does bring a tear to your eye, especially when kids are involved. And it's just thanks to them of where we are, and I'd probably dedicate, that's why we're still living after 3 years, because they're amazing support. Gives me a reason to get up in the morning, Monty. Yeah. And a long way to continue. But yeah, if anyone is delighted to support us, because we've also got a podcast coming out, but we've called it a Doddcast. And it's really to try and communicate with the MND public, because some people maybe can't get out their house. So we're trying to bring the MND to their house to allow them to hear and see what research is going on behind, because there is a bit of hope at the moment. We have to continue that, and people maybe don't see it how I see it. Because again, my team keeps me in front of everything, and we speak to the professors on a weekly basis, and there's a lot happening. So we're putting the Doddcast out as a 6-program Doddcast to really speak to the people behind the scenes, how it affects the family, what research is going on there, and to keep everyone pretty similar to what you're trying to do as well.
Doddie, what's ahead? What's coming up? What's the next milestones in what your journey is?
Well, getting through another Christmas, which is great. So that'll be good. That'll be 4th Christmas now we've got through, brilliant with the family time, another new year. But the main, I think, focus for myself is continue the journey of MND. But I've got my 50th birthday in July, so that's what we're striving to keep fit and keep alert for. So that'll be a big party then, or a big celebration come then. And then if things are still looking well, the following year, 2021, is the Lions tour to South Africa. So that'll be another milestone of where we are. But ultimately, it's the goal of trying to keep the pressure on the professors to get a cure to MND is my main focus.
Yeah, South Africa, because that was your Lions tour, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, a number of years ago in '97, and the kids and I went to New Zealand 3 years ago, because I didn't think I would get to the Lions 4 years ago to South Africa. So if we got to both, it would be a major milestone for everyone. So that's the goal at the moment.
That was great having a chat with Doddie, and we're now outside and the Lauderdale Hunt have arrived. What is there, 20 odd horses, quite a lot of foot followers, and I think they're going to have, well, the weather's okay, and I think they're going to have a decent enough morning of it, or a decent enough day of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Doddie and Kathy for having us today. So thank you very, very much. It's very kind of them. Thank you.
No, pleasure. Morning. Safe mate, Billy boy. Go on, pleasure. Rosemary, keep the roosters clean. Pleasure. Gwenny, we'll see you in return. Mikey boy.
Many thanks to Doddie. I hope you found this podcast interesting. Subscribe, please, to the rest of our on-farm podcasts. That's us for the day. Thank you.
Rogan, Josh, lovely to see you. We'll be following you in a minute once we finish feeding the sheep.
Right.
There we go, it's all done.
Good man. Thank you very much, Doddie. Pleasure.
My pleasure.
So I hope you've enjoyed that podcast. It's the first in a series of 5 or 6 that we're going to be recording right here in the rural borders, thanks to the support of Border Union Agricultural Society and their Centenary Fund. Thank you very much to them for their support. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you.